Hey folks, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. Working on an LBSC Tich locomotive. My name is Bill. This is the project, and this has been a fun week. Warmed up a little bit out here, and I got the piping done basically inside the smoke box. The steam supply, the superheater, and the snifter valve. So if you stay tuned, this will probably be about a 25 or 30-minute episode, but it's very interesting. The other cool thing was, in order to get some of this done, I bought a new tool, a Young Sun torch, which is a knockoff of the Smith Little torch, but it worked really well. I'm really excited about it, and if you want to see the new torch in action, please stay tuned because I show a little bit about that too. Thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please pass the word, help me grow the channel if you would. Please give me a thumbs up. If you don't feel like making a comment, just the thumbs up just do encourage me and tell me that people are watching. And of course, if you have a question or comment, please make it and I'll do my best to respond. Thank you all. Take care. Folks, here's the little assembly. Got it tied up with steel tie wire. I made little index marks for myself, the pipe alignment and the top. Obviously, the person who brazes this may or may not find that useful at all, and I'm sure it'll be burned off in the first 2 seconds of firing, but this is the orientation. It fits in there well when the steel is not on it, and I'm just hoping that they keep it together pretty much like that, and then I'll be able to, when I get it back, I'll probably have to re-anneal the long curved portion, get the alignment just right, and then I can silver solder the fitting on the end of that, and the fitting on the small part, sort of the banjo fitting, if you will. Matter of fact, I have those things laid out here. So this is the connection that will go with that cone that will go to the bottom, to the steam supply. This is the upper banjo, if you will, that will go to the upper pipe, and this is the exhaust piece right here. Here are the 3 screws that hold the banjo onto the assembly on the boiler. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm going to try to get up early and take this over to my local favorite welding shop tomorrow and ask them to braze it for me, and I will show you the results. I mean, worst thing that can happen is I'll have to remake it, but they're pretty good folks. They do a pretty good job, so fingers crossed. Something I've been wanting to get done for a long time now, if you follow the channel and the building of the Tich, is silver soldering or brazing the copper tubes for the superheater into the stainless portion that we built some time ago. I looked online, I've experimented with different things, looked online, and I found this good resource. It's on the Harris website, and I think what my problem has been so far was I was using the wrong alloy and the wrong flux. I was using the black flux, and I tried different solutions, different brazing rods and things, but looking up, they call for using the Staysil 56 and of course the white flux which comes with it for stainless, for brazing stainless. So I bought some Staysil 56. I have it right here, and I've got some brand new Staysil white flux to go with it. So we're going to try that, and before I try it, I am going to use my new little torch which I purchased. This is an Asian knockoff, if you will, of the little torch, and I'm going to try some experiments. I've got some brass rod wound around some copper tube. I'm going to try the torch. I'm going to try to melt it to see if I can get that brass. It's very thin, it's like 20 thou brass. I'm going to see if I can melt it, and I'm going to melt it with some Staysil 56 if I can as well. And I've got a couple of, after I do that, then I've got a couple of pieces of stainless, which is the matter of fact is the exact same material that I made the superheater thing out of, and a couple of copper tubes there to do further experimentation. So I'm going to practice first and see how that goes, and I will report. I'm not going to film the whole thing. I do have my camera stand set up, and I'll film parts of this and show you, but I don't want to make you watch. I mean, it's going to be probably an hour's worth of experimenting and practice here, so I'll just show the highlights The goal is hopefully I can get the brass to melt with using the white flux and with some of the silver solder, and that will be a good solution for the brazing basically the superheater together. We'll see. Coming up on the moment of truth here, there's a stainless steel superheater return. I just cleaned it out, used some acetone and then a dry cloth. I've also sanded the edge with 400 grit sandpaper that outside the ends of the tubes here that need to get silver soldered. So I'll turn the camera off real quick here, but I wanted to say after that second one didn't take as well as the first one took fine with the 56, so I'm confident in the materials I have here. I just needed to make sure it's perfectly clean. So I'm going to flux this and put it together, and then we'll play around with the exact right way to support it and then get the silver solder pieces in place, and then I'll actually try to braze it all together. Alright, I've got some flux on there, and if you can see right here, I made these little index marks for lining up the tubes, and I'm glad I did because I've got them lined up how I believe they need to be, and I've got them put in there all the way. So I think this will be a good little way of supporting it as well. So I'm going to leave it like this. I'm going to cut some pieces of silver solder and lay them across the top and get ready for the actual brazing process. Alright, I've got cut a couple of small pieces, the smaller one being on the downhill side, actually a larger piece on the uphill side. I have my roll of wire ready to go. I'll straighten out a piece just in case I need to touch it, and I have the white flux here as well. So I'll get ready to light the torch and see if we can make this thing happen. There's the propane flame, add some oxygen, heat that bad boy up. Again, this stainless piece is a lot smaller. Oh, shoot. Got the front one good. Get the flame around the back part there. There we go. Sweet. Alright, I'm going to play the flame on it just a little bit more. As you can see, I got a glob there, but I want to make sure we get saturated all the way around. Alright, I think we're good. Cut the oxygen off and the propane. We'll set the torch down. Now I'm going to let this thing set for quite a while because I don't want to dunk it in cold water and fracture the soldering. Brazing. I'm going to call it brazing. We'll let that cool off a bit, and then we'll dunk it in the cool water and pickle it well, I want to test fit it. I'll cut the wires off and then test fit it in the locomotive just to make sure everything's in the right configuration. It should be. I mean, they may have moved a little bit, but everything's cool. Then the next thing I'll do, obviously we have to silver solder this part into the steam header and then the fitting on here. And so I may have to heat these things up and anneal them to make them a little bendy for the final test fit. Let me shut this off now. This looks to have come out really well. I let it sit and cool off for a while, then I just dunked it in some cold water. I haven't tried to stress it at all, but looks like I got a nice joint all the way around there. I'm going to snip off the little wires. This is some old thin steel wire that I have a spool of left over from, I believe it's from my time in the military. I don't even know what we used it for, but it's green coated wire and it sure is strong. So I'll snip it off, and then like I said, I'm going to stick it inside the locomotive. I'll do a segment on that, show you what that looks like, the test fit, in a minute. And here we've got the assembly and the test fit inside the boiler. I have not yet silver soldered this piece on the steam header, but let me pull this out, see if I can do it one-handed, and you can see, I mean, this is looking like a really exact fit. I'm really excited about this. I may have to bend that a little bit. So I want to, when I silver solder the fitting onto the end here, put the nut and silver solder the fitting on, I'm going to leave a little extra space and heat that up a little bit extra so that I can bend it as needed. But excuse me, this is how the assembly looks pulling it out. I'm very, very excited that everything seemed to stay in place, and it looks like it's going to be a good fit there. You know, obviously subject to minor tweaking, but looking good. Very excited about that. So next thing, we'll get this silver soldered on, and I think I'll just do that separately, and then I'll put the nut and the fitting on the bottom part. We'll get that done, and you know, because the tricky part here is to make sure that the header is oriented. We don't want it crooked or, you know, at an odd angle like this. So I think I'll just rather concentrate on making that happen the way it's supposed to first, and then we'll worry about this part down here. I wanted to point this out. On further examination, I wasn't really satisfied that I got a good bead around the back, the bottom side. So I cleaned it off, put a little flux on it, and I just reapplied, just heated it up and reapplied a little bit of extra braze on the back there. Pretty certain we got good good sealing all the way around now, so I'm going to let this cool and get ready to silver solder the top part on the steam header. Preparing to silver solder the steam header on, I've cleaned it off with some sandpaper, and I also cleaned out inside. The other thing I did was to mark the location here. I know this part that has the magic marker on it is the front. So this is how it fits in. So I'll put some flux on it, and I need to get it just right, the right exact line up here, and then get it situated in a place where it won't move around when I heat this bronze up. So I'm gonna bring you back when we get it all set. Alright, I hope that shows up okay on the screen, but the point right here is this steam header. I've got it lined up, I have flux around it, it's all clean, and I put 2 pieces of the number 56 brazing rod component from Harris in place there. So let's get the torch fired up. Hope the oxygen will last a little bit longer. Alright. There's the propane. Let's introduce the oxygen. Funny, the bottle makes a funny buzzing sound. Okay, I think that's about the perfect flame. We'll start heating the bronze. I'm going to move the torch around a little bit more. Bronze steam header. Oh, and there we go. Shoot. Pieces of silver solder fell right off. Dang it. Get the other one here. I like this method, but it is a danger when the pieces fall off. Like that. That one's not going to stay. I have this extra piece handy that I can use to add if I need to. Use a scratch rod and keep this one in its position here. See the flux starting to change. Yeah, silver solder is starting to melt a little bit. Go in the hole there, please. Maybe I should heat up the pipe a little bit. Come on, thing. Let's go on there. Yeah, it's starting to wick now. I can see it. That's good. While we're here, let's add a wee bit more just in case. I won't have to do this twice. I think we're good there. Probably got about 3 times as much as we need on it, but I'm no expert. I'm here to learn, so. Alright. I'm going to heat the pipe up a little bit. And this one too. So that we can make any final adjustments. Alright, oxygen off, propane off. I really like this little torch, it's pretty cool. Okay, this is the last test fit before silver soldering the last piece on the little nipple onto the end of the steam supply line, but everything looks good so far. Let me see if I can unscrew this without having it all fall apart, but I got the nut on, and if you can see there's a little copper nipple down there, cone if you will. So I'm going to take this out, and happily none of this, the orientation doesn't matter too much for all of that stuff. I'll silver solder that on, and the one thing I got to do next is clean this up and braze silver solder on the snifter line here. Alright, I got this thing all set up. I've got it supported so nothing will come loose, hopefully. And got the nut on, got the nipple or cone on there, the white solder or the white flux around it. And let's get the party started. I'm aggravated that I forgot to do that part, but I will. Propane, add some oxygen. That's a nice flame. Heat up the bronze. This shouldn't take too long at all. It's actually copper, not bronze, the little cone. There we go. Make sure we heat all the way around. Nice. Now we'll let that cool. And we can clean it up, and I'm going to have to, I'm aggravated with myself because I'm going to have to dunk this in the pickle, get that part all cleaned up again before I can braze on silver solder on the snifter line. But we'll get that out, and all in due time. And well, the other half of this thing is the steam header is cleaning. I'm getting this piece ready. Obviously this is the snifter valve is going to be stuck in the bottom of the smoke box, and I'm just trying to approximate that. I had this piece that I made a lot longer than it needs to be, and now I think it's a little bit longer than it needs to be, but what we want to do is get it silver soldered into the other part of the steam header, the front part, which is in the pickle right now. I'm just going to leave this a little long, and I'm not going to put on the end of it. I've got the nut and a cone ready to silver solder onto it, but I think what I'm going to do is step by step. We'll just go ahead and get this piece set in. I may have to trim a bit off, you know, 1/8 inch or 3/16 off the bottom of this, but it'll be a lot easier to do once I have the actual piece installed, and we'll do that final fitting with the smoke box in place. Alright, I've got the steam header and the snifter line in place. This will undoubtedly need to get probably trimmed and for sure bent a little bit, so I'm not ready to solder on the cone and put the nut on it just yet, but it's in place. The important thing is to make sure it's not in so far that it's going to interfere with the steam line coming from below. So I just checked that, and I think we're good to go. Let's get the party started here. Alright, propane, a little oxygen. Oxygen. I wonder if I might be out. No, maybe not. Okay, good. I'm just heating the front part of the steam header because it's really thin where the copper tube goes in. Plus I don't want to destroy the soldering below it. Melting, starting to wick. There we go. Keep the heat on just a little bit more, make sure we got the good. Yeah. I'll spread nicely around, looks like it is. little bit too. Might as well anneal this one again. Okay, looks good. I'll cut the oxygen off, cut the propane off, let it cool. Alright, one final test fit before we put it in the pickle. As you can see, this, first of all, this is just an approximation of where the snifter is going to go. Second, as you can see, it's left a lot longer than it's going to need to be. It'll probably need to be cut off right here about where my thumb is, but we won't know that exactly until we test fit it inside with the smoke box in place. But let me unscrew this, and I'm going to pull it out, and we'll put this whole assembly in the pickle. There we go. Wanted to point out one thing, if I can, I don't know if it'll show in there, but want to be careful when silver soldering the snifter tube in. Make sure that it doesn't block the steam tube from the bottom there. So it doesn't, looks good. I've checked all around. Looks like we have a good seal everywhere with every place where we brazed, soldered, etc. And now it'll go overnight in the pickle, and we'll come back and clean it all up and probably shoot the final segments tomorrow. Okay, here's the assembly taken out of the pickle, and I just wiped it off, haven't done anything else. The interesting thing is that you'll notice here I'm going to have to make a allowance here, probably slot this hole a little bit so the screw can fit. When I was fitting this tube, I wasn't thinking about having to put a screw in there, and it doesn't quite fit there, but I'll fiddle with that later. I don't want to hold up progress. The next big thing I have to do, an important thing, is to cut this tube and to the exact right length, and then silver solder on the little fitting. I'll put them there over here, the fitting, little copper cone, and make sure the nut is in place on top of that. That will, for the snifter valve. So I bent this tube knowing approximately where the snifter valve was in relationship to the other things, but I have an idea here. I'll show you in just a second. I'm going to put the smoke box on the front of the boiler, and then I'll show you my idea for how to measure the spot. Okay, I'll show you underneath here. These are the holes for the exhaust and then the steam inlet, and this is the 1/4 inch hole here for the bottom of the snifter. So my idea is to put a 1/4 inch tube through here and see if it's perfectly lined up or not, and it is not. The good news is it's pretty close, and pretty close to the right distance as well. So before I bend that copper tube here, the 5/32 inch copper snifter tube, I'm going to need to anneal it, but I'm also going to need to measure off, cut it off the right distance, and to solder on the tube on there. So this will be helpful. I'm going to use this 1/4 inch tube here to help measure my exact distance up for the, see if I can explain it here. I know that the bottom of the snifter comes through right here, so if I mark the tube up to this length, I can see exactly how far I need to go to cut off, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I was playing around with before. You can see the magic marks on there, the Sharpie marker marks. So that's what I'm going to be shooting for. I'm going to quit filming for now. It's going to be a lot of handwork, like bending and fiddling, to get that right spot, but I'll bring you back when I have it ready to cut off and then to silver solder the fitting on there. Okay, that wasn't hard. I actually annealed the copper tube while it was in place there and just bent it using this little tubing bender. It did crimp the tube a teeny bit, but not terribly bad. It's just the snifter tube after all. And so now you can see the line up. Here's the steam line. Dang it. Back up a little bit. Okay, steam supply line. You can see that's perfectly lined up for its hole. And the copper, got my 1/4 inch copper tube in there, and that proves that the alignment will be good here. So it's just a matter of cutting this thing off now and silver soldering a fitting on the end of that. So I'll get that done. Okay, final fit check here. I think this is going to be about perfect. I'm holding on. I got enough of the snifter that I can hold on to it with my fingers. There's just a teeny little gap there at the top, and just exactly what I was hoping for. So I think we'll be good. Go ahead and solder those fittings on, put the nut and the cone on. I think we'll be okay. Got this all set up and ready to silver solder that on. I do have the nut in place. I did have to drill out the hole for the nut a couple of sizes, number sizes higher, just to give it a little bit more clearance to get around the bend. It shouldn't influence anything. And yes, I know that's way more silver solder than I need on this tiny little thing, but I'd rather have more than not enough. And I'm going to use the little torch again. If y'all are interested, just let me know and I will do a mini video about the little torch. But I am really happy about this. I just used the regular torch to anneal that rod there a few minutes ago, and the flame is huge. I mean, it's enormous compared to the little tiny controlled flame that you saw me using yesterday with the little torch. I'm really excited about having this. It's a perfect setup for me because I didn't want a bulky thing. But please do let me know. Make a comment in the comments section if you're interested, and I'll do a 5-minute video. There's plenty on there on the web about them, but if you want to hear my take, let me know. I'll be happy to do that. It's really a cool setup. Really excited, and you can see the set that I got has the flash arresters and the regulators and all that stuff, and so I'm very happy about that. So I'm not going to bore you by filming the silver soldering of this piece in place, but I will bring you back when it's done. Here's how the fitment looks. Just glad it all fits in there together. As you can see, the steam line is perfectly lined up. We have connection here with the snifter valve, and I'm pretty happy about that. I'm going to set the boiler in the chassis here and let you see what that looks like, and then we'll wrap things up. This will be the last segment. As you can see, I've got the boiler set back on the chassis. Looks kind of cool here in the late afternoon fading light, and let me put a little light on the subject. You can see inside here, as you can see, the smoke box is a cramped space. Let me see if I can get the door to wiggle a little. There we go. Smoke box door. I'll probably take, when I get ready to make the actual connections, I'll take this ring out so that I can access that nut a little bit better. But as you can see, everything barely fits. Very happy. It's been a productive weekend, so I'll make this the last episode. I think the next thing I'm going to work on that will pretty much finish up the smoke box is a 5/8 inch petticoat that goes inside the chimney. So we'll work on the petticoat and chimney next time so we can make our final connections, and I'll have to open up that space for that third screw a little bit now that it's pretty much final in there. So thanks for watching, everybody. I would hope this has been an instructive video for you. To me, this was some of the most tedious work so far on the entire project, but really fun and interesting. And as I told my mentor Fred when we were talking about it, you know, I'm in this thing to learn, and to me that's the fun part of the hobby, is the learning and the doing and the making. And of course, sharing it with everybody on YouTube has been pretty cool too. So thanks, everybody. I hope y'all have a great week. Bye.